Got an interesting one for you today. It's Mock Draft Wednesday. The national championship is in the books. Congratulations to Indiana and, of course, their quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, who is likely going to be the first overall selection. So this mock draft should be pretty fun. I've made some changes. We're going to talk about all of those. And as we get further into draft season, a lot will change. We'll be talking about it on the channel. So make sure you are subscribed. That little button underneath me should be blinking as they say subscribe, please. So make sure you are subscribed, as we will kick things off with the Raiders taking Fernando Mendoza. They had the entire organization at the national championship between Mark Davis, Tom Brady. I'm sure Al Davis from the heavens made an appearance. I mean, everybody was there to watch Fernando Mendoza and Indiana win a national championship. Miami ended up making it a good game, and Ruben Bain played quite well. There are a number of really good Miami players on that defense. Akeem Mesidor could end up being a first-round pick. Ahmad Moten played really, really well on Miami's defensive line. I think the overwhelming thought from what I've seen is that he's expected to go back, but man, I have not talked about him nearly enough this year, and he's awesome. Explosive as hell and big. So Ahmad Moten might be a name we start to talk about a little bit more. Had a really, really good game, but for the Raiders, they don't really have much of a choice here, in my opinion. Mendoza, I think, is a very good quarterback prospect. Indiana was very RPO heavy, and that was especially clear against Miami, but I think part of that was the strategy to win a national championship against an elite college football pass rush with the players we just talked about for the Hurricanes. I think if you go back to the Miami, or excuse me, you go back to the Cal tape for Fernando Mendoza, you get a little bit more of him actually playing closer to what it's going to look like in the NFL. Now, there's not really too many college offenses that are truly pro style, so there may be an adjustment period. I'm not really too concerned because I think Mendoza has the aptitude to make it happen. He's clearly extremely intelligent, so I don't think, understanding passing concepts and reading defenses on the fly will be too much of an issue for him. It's just, we got to see how he plays against more pressure, which when you're running an RPO offense, you're not really facing a ton of pressure because it's a quick read and the ball's out, right? So he, like every prospect, has some growing to do, and the Raiders are not exactly a great spot for a young quarterback. You're missing playmakers and an offensive line, but you're at the number one pick. There's a clear-cut QB1 in this class. It's going to end up being Fernando Mendoza to the Raiders at 1. I would be shocked if it were anything else. Following off the national championship hype, I'm going to go Ruben Bain at number 2. Now, Bain is an interesting prospect. Anytime you talk about him with any potential shortcomings, of course, you're going to get a ton of pushback. But I think when we're talking about the draft, it's important to have these conversations and we realize how NFL teams might view these players. There are apparent scouts and teams with day 2 grades on Ruben Bain, and that's because of the translatability. People are concerned about the arm length, which is supposedly sub 31 inches, which is insane for an edge rusher, and you can bring up the stat that there's never been even a Pro Bowler off the edge with those measurements. These are factors. Certain teams have certain thresholds. Also, Bain, stiffer ankles, maybe not the most bendy edge rusher in the world. So some are calling him a tweener. Is he, maybe not big enough to play on the interior, but maybe he's not athletic enough and bendy enough to play off the edge. Now, I think he's got decent bend for his size at about 270, 280. But it's going to be interesting to see what role he ends up playing. But at the end of the day, for me, I think Ruben Bain is just one of those guys. You watch him, he's a playmaker, he's a disruptor, he's very good against the run, he's explosive and powerful. I mean, the name of the game for Ruben Bain is power. He is rugged, he is like a sawed-off shotgun, as I've said, and that can do some damage. He is a really, really fun player to watch, and it's just his bag, complete power, speed to power. He will bull rush you into the quarterback's lap, and there isn't a ton else there right now, but I think the floor is fairly high, and the upside is someone that's going to be a Pro Bowl type of player. So the Jets here that could use some help off the edge, but also on the inside, you might just go best player available. And in terms of the most valuable positions, that kind of spells Ruben Bain to the top here. This video is also sponsored by Underdog. It's the best place to play daily fantasy sports. You can make predictions, win real money. Play in so many different states, including Arizona, New Mexico, Virginia, North Carolina, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. Just make sure you're playing responsibly. I'm going to go with this for this weekend's games. NFC, AFC Championship. Give me Drake May and Jarrett Stidham for lower passing yards and fantasy points. And then Sam Darnold higher, 235.5 passing yards as well. This is my prediction for this weekend. Hopefully it comes true. 4 for 24 would be a nice little payout. You could also add a 60% profit boost, which is currently being offered. There are specials running all the time. Click the link in the description. If you're a new customer, you get this Sam Darnold 0.0 passing and rushing yards. Take the higher. It's going to hit. It is quite literally a free pick. And remember to play responsibly. New customers play $5, get $75 in bonus entries that you can use. Remember to use code Bengal. Link is in the description. As we get back to the Cardinals at number 3, we're going to give them Francis Maui-Noah, the tackle from Miami. He's continued to play very, very well. I've been high on Francis Maui-Noah for a while now. And I think that there is talk about him moving to guard, but I don't think that means he is certainly going to move inside to guard. I see a guy that can play right tackle, and that is a pretty big need for the Arizona Cardinals. They've got a lot of needs. They've got a new head coach that we don't know who it is as I record this. Maybe we're going to find out. But this team is really lacking talent. It really hasn't been built in the best way, and they're struggling at quarterback as well. There's not really a quarterback to grab. Dante Moore, of course, is returning to Oregon. Really surprising to me. I thought, hey, you pretty much can guarantee that you're going to be a top 5 or top 10 pick in the draft. Yes, landing spot matters, but it's tough to pass up on pretty much being a top 5 or top 10 pick, all but guaranteed, to go back to school and risk injury, risk not playing well, or risk it being a better class. It's a very risky move. You're turning down what is ultimately $40 or $50 million guaranteed to go back to school for $5 to $10 million for a season, and then who knows? Big gamble for Dante Moore, but here for the Cardinals, they don't really have an option to upgrade quarterback, at least at 3. It's not going to be Ty Simpson here. I don't think it's going to be anybody else here. It's just not that great of a QB class. So back-to-back Miami players, as we're finally going to break that trend with an Ohio State player. I'm going to give the Titans Arvell Reese. New head coach revealed to be Robert Saleh. Very, very interesting signing for Tennessee. Saleh gets his second chance at being a head coach. Obviously, he's been a great defensive coordinator in the league for some time. And I think Arvell Reese would be incredibly enticing for Saleh, who has had a great history of, I guess, being on staffs that have drafted and developed linebackers and edge rushers. Reese can kind of be both. Now, he really has been deployed a lot as a spy for Ohio State, but I think when you've seen him play off the edge, he has flashed. He's someone, for me, that is very, very athletic with incredible play strength. And I just picture him off the edge or being a spot dropper or being a spy, maybe a combination of all those things, right? And I think he's going to be a very good fit for the Robert Saleh defense. This is a pick that to me makes a lot of sense here if he were available. I could also see building around Cam Ward with a playmaker, as we've seen no skill players off the board beyond Mendoza, so the receivers are still available. If you were going to go with a running back, it's a little bit early, but is that impossible that the Titans would go Jeremiah Love at 4? I don't think it's super likely, but it's not impossible. We've been surprised before where, running backs go in the draft. And is Jeremiah Love near that Ashton Genty level? You can make an argument for that, right? So Jeremiah Love being the first running back we've seen drafted in the top 5 since, I believe, Saquon Barkley, I don't think that's impossible. And maybe it'll be something that I try in the near future, but I can also see Saleh sticking to the defensive roots and going with someone they can deploy in a number of different ways, and that is Ohio State's linebacker Arvell Reese. To me, the thing that stands out about him, well, closing speed's big, but it's the play strength. Unbelievable. He can stack and shed, 320 pounders like they're 210. It's unbelievable. But we have the Giants at number 5. My favorite team, unfortunately. They did the Giants thing where they won 2 meaningless games at the end of the year and dropped their position in the draft. However, if they were not going to get number 1, it's maybe not the end of the world that you're not at 2 with Dante Moore going back to school. No one's going to be trading up to number 2 when there's no quarterback to trade up for. So it's not the end of the world. Obviously, if you were, not associated with the team and wanted them to have a higher pick, the Giants should have lost to the Raiders and then subsequently the Cowboys. They didn't, and they would have had the number 1 overall pick. But, whatever. Giants here at number 5, a lot of needs. Wide receiver is one. Interior offensive line, guard, center, right tackle with Illuminor being a free agent, interior defensive line, linebacker is a huge one, cornerback, potentially safety as well. And in a draft that's maybe lacking a lot of that top-end talent, such as this one seems to be, maybe you just go stick and pick and take arguably the best player available regardless of position. I don't do this very often because I don't know that it's necessarily going to happen, but I am going to go Caleb Downs at number 5. Now, it is early for a safety, and this matters. These mock drafts are not player rankings for me. It's a prediction about what I think will happen or what could happen if one thing changes. That's why we do a lot of mock drafts. We play around with a lot of different scenarios. And especially as we get closer to the actual draft, I'll be doing some fun drafts like spin the wheel and throw a little bit of randomness in there because that's what the NFL draft is. It's random. It's unpredictable. It's hard to know what's going to happen, a minute before the pick, let alone an hour, let alone a few months, right? So Caleb Downs is a very good player. Does his best work in the box. And really my idea with this pick is that you have John Harbaugh coming in from Baltimore. Kyle Hamilton has been a very, very good player in a very specific role for Baltimore. And I think you can see some Kyle Hamilton and Caleb Downs. They're both phenomenal downhill players. I actually think Caleb Downs is better going back, and that's maybe why he gets drafted a little bit earlier. They're both extremely instinctive. Caleb Downs doesn't really even miss tackles either, which was kind of a Kyle Hamilton problem at times at Notre Dame. Caleb Downs is really an incredible safety prospect. If the Giants wanted to go this direction, which is bring in, by all accounts, a big-time team leader, a tone setter, someone that's very instinctive, loves football, and that's what John Harbaugh talked about in his introductory press conference. We want guys who love football, culture guys. That, to me, is what Caleb Downs is, by all accounts. I've never met him personally. There was an opportunity to when I got sent to the Rose Bowl, but disappeared. So didn't happen with Caleb Downs, but I would love to see him playing for the Giants. Now, there are so few safeties over the past decade, really past 25 years, that have been drafted in the top 5, really even the top 10. So it is kind of rarefied air here, but Caleb Downs is a really, really good player, and the Giants could say, hey, this is what our Kyle Hamilton could be. And I think that's an interesting idea. Caleb Downs obviously in play, but also, Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, Sonny Styles, Peter Woods, Mekhi Lemon, Jermod McCoy, even though it seems early, the Giants desperately need corner, and his 2024 tape was phenomenal. We'll talk about him in a bit, but we're going to go Caleb Downs for right now. Browns at number 6. The Browns, I think, have a way to go about this draft. I don't know if it's going to be with their first 2, but they absolutely go into this draft needing an upgrade at wide receiver and across the offensive line. So you could go Spencer Fano at number 6, but you could also opt to take what you believe to be the best wide receiver in the draft, and here we're deciding that that's Carnell Tate. Doesn't have the health concerns that Jordan Tyson does, and just has a better height, weight, speed package compared to Mekhi Lemon. Maybe he and Mekhi Lemon are the same weight, but it's a better frame and more explosiveness. I think that leads Carnell Tate to being the first receiver off the board. Stays in state here in Cleveland. You need to bring in more weapons on the outside. That's what Carnell Tate can do for you. He's been outshined by Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State because, of course, he has. Jeremiah Smith, even though it's an overused term, is legitimately a generational prospect. As a wide receiver, had he been draft eligible last year as a freshman, could have gone number 1 or number 2 overall. If not 1, would have been gone at 2. Just would have been. Elite player. So Carnell Tate, even though he was productive this past season, didn't get the shine that Jeremiah Smith did because he's just not Jeremiah Smith. Nobody is. But he can still be a very good prospect, even if he's not one of the best receiver prospects we have ever seen, the way Jeremiah Smith seems to be. Browns need weapons. Carnell Tate seems to be a pretty easy pick here at number 6. We get to the Commanders at number 7. Gonna go David Bailey. I think there's a chance he ends up going even higher as well. And I think at the end of the day, what it is for David Bailey is, even though he's a little bit slight, a little bit smaller, maybe isn't amazing against the run, or maybe that's not a maybe, just isn't better against the run, even though he improved from 2024, he's okay at best currently. His ability to get after the quarterback is elite. Also, not really the bendiest. You'd think someone that's a little bit smaller would be explosive and super bendy. That's not really necessarily it either. He's just so good with his hands, finds ways to get to the quarterback, and is disruptive as hell. I think the Commanders could certainly use a pass rusher of his caliber off the edge, and that's why David Bailey ends up going top 10 here, because he can get to the quarterback. Can he be a 3-down player? I think so. So he ends up going at number 7. Is he in play at 2 or 4 maybe? I don't think that's impossible. But here he goes at number 7. Could also drop, out of the top 10 potentially, but I think he makes sense there at the pick. Saints at number 8. Jeremiah Love has been somewhat popular here lately. I'm going Mekhi Lemon. I think he's a great combination with Chris Olave, who has developed a nice connection with Tyler Shuck. If Tyler Shuck is your QB of the future, build around him. It doesn't necessarily have to be a running back at 8, but get him a weapon. And Mekhi Lemon, someone that can work the slot, someone that can play the Z, even though that's kind of like Olave's game. Mekhi Lemon is an elite contested catch player despite being a little bit smaller, and is fearless over the middle, is a route running technician at times. I love Mekhi Lemon as a player. I might start elevating him more and more and more. And the only thing that kind of, I think, hurts Mekhi Lemon at the end of the day, which I feel like I've said several times, but we're getting to the end of the day. It's 5 o'clock as I record this, so workday is about to be over for a lot of you, even though this will not be out then. 5'11", 195, not super explosive, but he's good after the catch. He's powerful. He's fearless. So he's got traits that you love at receiver, and we're seeing a lot of these guys that aren't maybe the biggest or the fastest dominate in the league at wide receiver right now. It maybe doesn't matter as much as some might think. And there are going to be teams, again, that have thresholds and maybe wouldn't consider Mekhi Lemon inside the top 10. But I think he is just a playmaker. There are going to be comps to Amon-Ra St. Brown with the size and with USC, and Jackson Smith and Jigba with, again, the size, play style. I see it. I've been saying it. I see it. I don't really love comps, but you can see some play style similarities between these guys. And Jackson Smith and Jigba was just the best receiver in the NFL this past year. Like statistically, production-wise. Does that make Mekhi Lemon someone that could go higher than JSN did, which was around 20? Maybe it does. Saints grab him at 8. Chiefs at number 9. I know you might be getting sick of it at this point, Chiefs fans. If you are, consider this, Kenyon Sadiq, but I'm going Jeremiah Love. I think he ends up being a top 10 pick. He is one of the actual best players in this draft, probably a top 3 player in this draft. He just plays a less valuable position, but to the Chiefs, they need to upgrade running back desperately, and you're missing Patrick Mahomes for maybe a significant portion of the season. We'll see on that, but you got to go out and try to improve this offense, and it's going to be tough to do that, or tough to do better than Jeremiah Love. I think he's a great pick here at number 9. I don't necessarily mind running back this high because I know the elite ones are a cut above what you could find in the second, third, into day 3. So, yes, it's running back is the most replaceable position. You need a good offensive line in place. You need a lot of things for them to be effective, but once you do have some type of framework in place, the elite prospects and players at running back are players that can change the game in a way that a solid back on day 3 might not be able to. Like, there is probably a certain floor that just a running back comes in with, but they just don't have the ceiling that a guy like Jeremiah Love has. So could you go out and grab a running back on day 2? It's a possibility. This running back class has kind of grown on me a bit because I see the potential of like a Mike Washington or Seth McGowan. I know a lot of people like Emmett Johnson. Jonah Coleman is one to watch as well. Katron Allen, I think, is going to end up being a solid back for a while in a running back by committee type of situation. We had higher hopes for Nick Singleton. It didn't really materialize in 2025. But there are some decent running backs. It's just not extremely deep. Kalen Black, by the way, we'll talk about him for a minute because he's never going to be a first-round pick for me. But, man, I love the way Kalen Black runs the ball. He is explosive from the second he touches it. He does not slow down. He runs through contact. Yeah, he's a bit older. I think he's going to end up being productive for a season or two. Give me Kalen Black on my team, and I'd be very, very excited about it. Now, is he ever going to lead the league in rushing? You know, who could say? Is he a good fit on the Giants when I'm saying my team? You maybe not because you have Tyrone Tracy, Cam Scattaboo. But, man, I would be excited about Kalen Black. Somewhere on day 3 is where he probably goes, but there's so much to like. Really, really fun player, but we'll talk about, you know, that more as we get into draft season. Maybe extend these mock drafts to 2 or 3 rounds and start to release some prospect rankings as we can get through more tape. So that'll be something to watch out for. Bengals at 10. You know, I keep thinking about it, and I've had Peter Woods kind of all over the place over the past year. I still think there's a pretty decent chance he goes top 10 because I just don't think they're made like Peter Woods. Obviously, you know, he was a lot better as a freshman than he was as a junior, but Clemson kind of went big downhill. And that's just sometimes not a great situation for a player to perform in. Peter Woods has ideal size. He has ideal penetrating ability as a 3-tech. He is violent. He is explosive. It's tough to find that makeup. So for the Bengals, who could really use to improve, or really, you know, use an upgrade to improve their pass rush, really on the edge or the interior, it's tougher to find the interior rushers that can change the game. I think Peter Woods is one of those guys. At his best, we have seen it. Yeah, I don't think freshman Peter Woods that was dominating is suddenly not good as a junior, even though he was a lot more inconsistent on tape as a junior from what I've seen. So I think it's in there. I think his potential will push him up the board. Does that make him a top 5 pick? I don't know about that, but I think it could make him a top 10 pick. Dolphins at 11. Jordan Tyson's still here, which means Jordan Tyson is the pick. I'm typically cornerback here. I've considered some other things, but Tyson is one of the best players in the draft. He falls a bit with the extreme history of injuries, and I know Dolphins fans probably wouldn't be super excited to hear that, but at his best, this is arguably the top receiver in the draft and one of the top 5 players in the draft. He has decent size. He has very good contested catch ability. He's very good after the catch. He is explosive. He's a good route runner. Jordan Tyson is an awesome player. The Dolphins need to upgrade that receiver room, among other things. And this is just a case of maybe the best player available at a position of need. And that's an insta-pick for the Cowboys as well, Sonny Styles. If he makes it to 12, I don't see a way he's not the pick here. You'd have to have a really, really special player be available to pass up on Sonny Styles at 12. He's a lesser valued position historically in the NFL playing linebacker, but the talent is ridiculous. You're not going to find the size, frame, athleticism, and technical ability that Sonny Styles has. Former safety, but has really just been a linebacker, but he's got elite size. But the reason I always bring up safety is to kind of give you just a taste of the athleticism. He moves like a safety, but he's 240 pounds and can shed blocks, can fill and will fit the run and fill lanes and make tackles. He's a really good player. He is a legit linebacker. This isn't like the hybrid. Is he going to play in the overhang? Is he a safety? Is he Isaiah Simmons? No, this is a linebacker that just happens to be giant with amazing athleticism and does not miss tackles. One this past season, and it was after throwing an offensive lineman, and then the big-bodied Miami back Mark Fletcher just managed to break out of the arm tackle. Like, that'll happen, but he doesn't miss tackles. To my point, this is an elite prospect that could end up in the top 5. I was heavily considering him at 5, and he stays in the same division here and goes to the Cowboys at 12, who really need to upgrade linebacker. I mean, this is almost a player I think the Cowboys could consider trading up for. If they don't, if Styles is off the board, if the corners you like, Delane and McCoy, are off the board, are the Cowboys an outside shot to go with an offensive lineman? Something to consider. Spencer Fano would make a lot of sense at 12. Would make a lot of sense. Rams at 13. This is a weird team because cornerback is a very clear and obvious need. But then it's like, what else do they really need? It's tough to say. I don't know that tackle's a big need. Like, you can always have more depth, but their tackles are good. Like, Lark Jackson, quite a good player. And he was an undrafted guy. And he had some hype going into the season out of Iowa and then fell undrafted. And then, you know, people have thought right tackle would be a big issue for a long time because of Havenstein retiring or supposedly retiring. But it hasn't been. I was going to say, like, why are more people not talking about Warren McClendon? But he plays tackle. Like, people just don't really care for the most part. But he has been very, very good on this Rams team. And he's young. Like, the Rams have their 2 young tackles of the future, probably. Yes, you could add more depth, but I don't think you're doing that at 13. Injuries always happen. They're always going to happen, especially on the offensive line. But I don't know that tackle's a huge need for them. And then it's like, what do they actually need? I mean, it's really the secondary. Linebackers have been great. D-line's been great, although you could always have more of those as well. For me, it's like receiver and corner, but what receiver are you taking here? I think that's an interesting question. Like, could this be Casey Concepcion or Denzel Boston going much higher than we'd expect? Because the fall off is kind of significant. I love Chris Bell as a player. He tore his ACL at the end of the year. So who would you consider taking at 29? Maybe this is a receiver earlier than expected. I'm going to change my mock draft on the fly is what I'm going to do. I do it in advance, but I'm going to be changing it on the fly here. I'm going to go with a receiver. And who fits the best with Puka Nacua? I think that's Casey Concepcion. This changes things a lot for me. It's early. Casey's an interesting player because he's really explosive. He's great with the football in his hands. He's a guy you can scheme the ball to, and I think that's going to work with the Rams here. Now, this is not a straight comp, but Casey Concepcion does remind me of Odell Beckham Jr. at LSU. He does not have the same ball skills, in my opinion, but the way he moves, the way he can house a slant, the way he's so electric with the ball in his hands, that does remind me of Odell. And this was kind of the range that Odell went back in 2014 to the Giants, and it maybe at the time seemed a bit earlier than expected. Not by much, but like, would it really shock you if Casey Concepcion went in the top 20? Not really, especially with these other receivers being off the board. Yeah, they really do need corner, and you could take the first one off the board, but McCoy has the injury stuff, has not played in 2025. Mansour Delane is a really nice option, but maybe a little bit undersized, maybe not the most elite athlete. Would you rather just take the best receiver here for your offense and then go with cornerback down the board when you're going to find something good? Because the corners are good. You're probably not going to end up getting McCoy or Delane at this point, but could Avion Terrell fall to 28 or 29? Maybe. Could Colton Hood? Could Brandon Cisse? Like, these are options. And then, like, Keith Abney's a very good player. D'Angelo Pons is probably going to go top 75, maybe top 100. I don't think he's a first-round pick, even though he's played like one. But you might just opt to go cornerback at 29. So just because receiver is going to be off the board and there's a bit of a drop-off, this to me is going to be Casey Concepcion, which is not something I planned on and now we're gonna have to figure it out now. But yeah, I talked myself into that. I kind of like the idea. Ravens at 14, gonna go Keldrick Falk. They could use an upgrade on the interior defensive line, but also the edge. Now, he's kind of like a run-stopping edge, about 290 pounds, 6'6" or so, and he's somebody that has the traits that NFL teams covet. It's the length, it's the size, it's the high floor because he's good against the run. The pass rush is still developing. I like Keldrick Falk as a 5-tech, ideally. I think that's what he's going to do a lot of. Is there a team that's going to think that he's just a straight edge? It's a possibility, right? Could he play 3-tech? I also think that's a possibility. But I like him as a player. I think he gives you a good base defensive end. Can set the edge, can play against the run, but also, could develop to be a bit of a talented pass rusher. We'll see on that. That's a little bit of projecting because it's not all the way there yet. But that ability becomes a lot more intriguing if he's playing on the inside. So, again, something to consider as we talk about the Bucs at 15. And this is where I actually might consider a cornerback now because the one I had drafted to the Rams is still available, but I'm not gonna. I'm going to go tight end. I'm going to go Kenyon Sadiq. Could end up being a top 10 pick. You consider maybe the Saints if things don't work out great, but I think the Chiefs is really where the Kenyon Sadiq stuff kind of starts. Like, could the Dolphins consider it? I think they could. The Rams have like 8 tight ends, probably wouldn't. But Kenyon Sadiq, extremely talented, productive for a college tight end, and is really, really athletic. I think he's a good blocker in space, particularly against linebackers and defensive backs, may struggle against defensive linemen. Like, he's not George Kittle, but few are. You're not drafting him necessarily because of his great blocking ability. You're drafting him because of the way he can be a mismatch in the passing game. And we've seen that be pretty effective for teams lately. Trey McBride is not the best run blocker in the league. If you ask people who the best tight end in the league is, they're going to tell you Trey McBride. They're not saying George Kittle right now. They're saying Brock Bowers. They're not saying, insert great blocking tight end. I'm not going to use Kittle again, but he was also a very good receiver. The league is changing. Passing is so important. Even with too high, you're seeing, the run kind of resurface a little bit. But these guys that can be mismatches for offenses, you can move them around and create mismatches against the defenses. Extremely valuable. I can see Kenyon Sadiq going in the first half of the first round for that reason. Jets at 16. I had Mansour Delane here, but I'm going to go Jermod McCoy because I think he's better. The Jets are a team that can afford to take a shot on an injured player, but Jermod McCoy, come combine time, may not even be injured anymore. He was practicing back at Tennessee. They mutually agreed not to play him, which I think is maybe the best decision. Don't rush him back. But his 2024 tape is elite. I mean, it's truly very, very good. And if you have the Jets here, you've got multiple first-round picks this year and next year. You are not going to likely get a player of Jermod McCoy's caliber at 16 very often. So you catch the gem that fell into your lap. You take the swing because you can afford to miss. Like, their team is so bad, so you'd like to hit on everybody. But if McCoy ends up being, an injury-prone player, or that he's not, back the way he looked pre-injury, that's kind of okay because he's got a path to playing time. He's got a path to develop. Cornerback is weak on this Jets team like everything else. But it's also not necessarily even an injury-prone player. It's just a major injury, which guys come back from all the time now. So did this stop Jermod McCoy from going top 5 the way he may have if not for the torn ACL? Yeah, but he still goes in the first half of the first round here to a team that really needs him. He's still the first corner off the board. Feels like an ideal landing spot. Lions at 17. I feel bad about Spencer Fano going this late for me here at 17, and that's happened lately because tackle's so valuable, and there are a number of tackle teams. Like, as always, you have the Chiefs. As always, right? The Browns is a clear spot where they absolutely need tackle. The Giants are a spot. I think even the Titans are a spot. Like, there's so many teams that could to just look to upgrade tackle. Cowboys, I think the Dolphins could consider Fano if he were available. I think the Rams could, for reasons we touched on a bit earlier. I think a team even looking for a guard upgrade could take Fano, like the Ravens, for example, or the Bucks, or, I mean, with the Jets, probably not, but it's still a possibility with John Simpson. Like, it may be like Fano at guard. But the Lions here get their left tackle of the future, or maybe plays right tackle, Sewell over to left tackle. These are options, I would say. But Taylor Decker getting a bit older, it may be time to consider a replacement. And Fano is maybe too good to be available. Goes at 17. Vikings at 18. Let's go Mansour Delane here. Big cornerback upgrade. LSU cornerback to the Vikings like he's Patrick Peterson. Gets to wear the same colors, but he had a really, really good year. Virginia Tech transfer that is really good in both man and zone. I mean, I've talked about his mirror and match ability, and it's some of the best that you're going to find. So the arm length is maybe not going to be super elite, and the explosiveness, like the testing, maybe not super elite, but he's just a good corner. And in the middle of the first round here, I think that's a really, really good player to add here for Minnesota that needs to upgrade their secondary. Panthers at 19. We are going to go with CJ Allen. You know, it seems maybe like slightly early for CJ Allen, but if he can go at 28, he can go at 19, right? And not that, you know, the Texans would heavily consider him. A team like the Broncos or Seahawks maybe are linebacker teams, but CJ Allen's really good. He's got good athleticism. He's very good downhill, and it's a big upgrade for the Panthers. Their linebacking core is not good. It really is not. I also think corners in play because it's J.C. Horn and then not a whole lot else. Like, there are some decent rotational pieces, but you don't really have that, in my opinion, the firm CB2, right? And that makes Avion Terrell intriguing potentially. That makes, you know, Delane, if he were to get there, intriguing. But a linebacker for me, I think Jack Campbell going a little bit earlier than we expected, which you look back on it, hey, the 6'5", 250-pound awesome athlete with good instincts at Mike linebacker ended up going top 20. Shock. CJ Allen is not Jack Campbell in that regard, but he's a really, really good player. Maybe best served as a weak side linebacker in the NFL, but really good, and I think he could end up going top 20 if the Panthers see it as, you know, as big of a need as I do, and they also could see him as one of the best players here. In terms of BPA, I'm thinking Avion Terrell. I'm thinking Vega Ioane, probably. But CJ Allen in that conversation. Cowboys at 20. I talked about it earlier. I'm going to go tackle. Caleb Lomu off the board here. Lomu is another really solid athlete who's a big man, but pretty nimble. He's not like even 320 probably, but still nimble for what I would consider to be a big man. I guess I think about the height maybe more than anything else. This is a bit of a weird spot with who the Cowboys currently have on the offensive line. I think they did a thing where they kicked Tyler Smith out to tackle after the Tyler Guyton injury. But thinking back to Oklahoma, Tyler Guyton is a right tackle anyway. So get Terrence Steele out of there. Get Caleb Lomu at left tackle. Get Tyler Smith back to left guard. Get Tyler Guyton, who's healthy, back to right tackle. And that seems like the best orientation that the Cowboys could have. Now, at 12 went with Sonny Styles, and they'd be lucky to grab him there at 12. You could obviously consider cornerback if one were available here at 20 that you like, which Avion Terrell is that guy. But it's tough to find good tackles. We know the Cowboys draft. Trenches first, not a bad strategy typically. And Caleb Lomu, I think, makes a ton of sense. Cowboys off the board. Steelers on the clock at 21. And I am going to go with Vega Ioane. I think the Steelers need to fully reset. And it's not forcing a quarterback here at 21. Like, could this be a Denzel Boston spot, especially with the run on receivers that we saw? Maybe so. But Ioane is commitment to the trenches. Like, you're hoping that Broderick Jones can get up to a plus starter. We think that Troy Fautanu will be. Sayamalo is a free agent, right? So I'm fairly certain he's into his 30s either way. I think that guard and the best true guard in this draft in Vega Ioane, not a bad option here for Pittsburgh, who say, hey, we're going to punt on the year kind of, but we're going to get that framework in place for our next quarterback. Could it just be Ty Simpson? Yeah, I'm sure it could be. But try to get the best possible situation for your next QB. And maybe that's even Malik Willis. That'll be an interesting situation to monitor. But try to get the best production or best protection in place to maximize your eventual production. And it's actually going to be back-to-back guards for me. It's a very valuable position. I mean, you're seeing these guys get paid. Go back to the Robert Hunt contract. You know, he got like 5 years, $100 million, and he was not one of the league's best guards even. You know, this is becoming a more and more valuable position. And you look at the Chargers, damn, this O-line is horrendous. And yet it maybe starts at center because Bradley Bozeman is awful. But guard has been really bad too. Zion Johnson, unfortunately, I think we can say at this point is a bust. Rashawn Slater is tough because the guy has been awesome when he plays. He doesn't play. And I'm not trying to discredit a phenomenal rookie year and a very good couple of years in 2023 and 2024, but he played 3 games in 2022 and didn't appear in 2025. And one of the best things you can do as an offensive lineman is be dependable, play every game, and be a reliable option. Rashawn Slater, unfortunately, has not been that. He is awesome when he plays. He's got to be on the field more. And this isn't like suddenly like Rashawn Slater hate session. I'm just saying it's like this O-line, it's unreliable piece after unreliable piece. Hopefully Joe Alt is not going in the same direction. He's another guy who's great when he plays, but we didn't see a whole lot of him in 2025. So my point, this O-line is really awful. This should be an offensive lineman at 22. It's got to be something. And Emmanuel Pregnon enjoyed a great season for Oregon as a transfer from USC. He's got good size. He can help you run the ball, and he's a good pass protector, which the Chargers desperately need. I understand Justin Herbert played poorly individually in the playoff game, and that unfortunately is a trend here the past couple of years, but the O-line has been so bad the past couple of years, and especially so with all the injuries and poor play in 2025. Now, Herbert had opportunities in the playoff game and did not take advantage of them. But it's a tough environment for a quarterback to work with. I'm a huge Justin Herbert believer. I want him to get some protection and be comfortable playing behind an offensive line. And then maybe the Chargers can start to make some more plays. They won 11 games this year, or 12 games. Like, they were quite good. Just like Herbert dragged this team to the playoffs and then just couldn't do it in the playoffs, which you hate to see that. Unfortunately, the narrative of him being a playoff choker is not exactly going away anytime soon, it would appear. Eagles at 23. It's amazing I haven't done this before. But I'm going Caden Proctor. Yeah, they could have a needed guard, but I'm also looking at a Lane Johnson replacement long term. You have Jeff Stoutland University. I mean, he's one of the greatest offensive line coaches in the history of the game and offensive line developers. They've just done an incredible job. I mean, Lane Johnson's a Hall of Fame right tackle. Jordan Mailata is an all-pro left tackle that they found from Australia playing professional rugby. This is an awesome spot for any offensive lineman to go. And Proctor has elite size. 6'7", 370. You can't teach that. You can't. He doesn't quite yet know how to use his strength. His footwork isn't phenomenal at this point, but the upside is pretty good because he's so big and he's athletic. It's just not quite all in sync for him at this point. But you put him in a spot where he doesn't necessarily have to play right away. You could even try him at guard because he profiles there. And you might have a really, really good pick here at the back end of the first round. Browns at 24. I've been doing it a lot, but I'm big on the Monroe Freeling train right now. You take a guy that's as big as he is, 6'7", 315, who's as nimble as he is. It's great footwork on a great team. Very, very good player. I mean, he's got first-round pick written all over him. I think he's going to be a stalwart, and he's going to be somebody to get used to seeing in the first round for me. Monroe Freeling here, as I think the Browns have a pretty good draft. Carnell Tate at 6, Monroe Freeling at 24. It's a big upgrade at you're hoping left tackle, and then at your new wide receiver 1. So it's a pretty good haul for Cleveland. Bears at 25, D-line's awful. You can't stop the run. You can't get after the quarterback. For me, this is somebody in the front 7, really somebody in the front 4. And I like Caden McDonald here a lot for Chicago. He could go a lot earlier than this. He's a big run-stuffing nose tackle. A little bit of pass rush upside in there as well, but he's just huge. This should really hopefully help the Bears stop the run. It's been a huge concern, or was. Their season's over now. The D-line needs to get better. Needs to. I'm encouraged by Austin Booker. We'll see if he can become a solid starter in the future. And Montez Sweat obviously plays defensive end for the Bears. But the interior defensive line, like, you can't rely on Javon Dexter. That guy's like, he's like the Will Levis of defensive linemen, if that makes sense. Maybe slightly disrespectful, but that guy's always doing something goofy and weird. Caden McDonald, big body, stop the run. Bills at 26. What a weird situation this has been. They came out today, their owner's like, hey, you know our GM Brandon Beane? He didn't actually really want to draft Keon Coleman. That was a coaching staff thing. The coaching staff pushed for Keon Coleman. Of course, now every clip of Brandon Beane, and they're like, I can't wait for Keon Coleman, is surfacing, which is pretty great. And I'm not saying Beane said that, but the owner said that. So with Beane sitting right next to him, who didn't disagree, he had every opportunity to say, hey, it was a mutual decision. It was a collaborative decision. We did it as a team. We believe in Keon. He didn't say that. It was weird. And Keon Coleman, by the way, still on the Bills. Still there. For the owner next to the GM to basically say, hey, the coaching staff really made a mistake picking Keon Coleman. And Coleman had his strengths and weaknesses at Florida State after transferring from Michigan State. The contested catchability was hit or miss. I don't think it was at a high rate, but he made some of the most incredible catches you'll ever see. And was a punt returner and was fun in that regard, but he really just can't separate. And that was the case at Florida State as well. And the ball skills really haven't been there. He drops it all the time. Just Buffalo has not been a good spot for him. You're probably going to end up seeing a Jalen Polk type of deal where, hey, this guy was drafted top 40 and we just traded him away for nothing. So we'll see if Keon Coleman makes it to year 3 with the Bills. I'm guessing he probably doesn't. Wide receiver, though, major need. Denzel Boston still available. Denzel Boston is my pick here. He is kind of like Keon Coleman a little bit. He's not exactly the most explosive, but I think he's a better route runner than Keon Coleman is, and he separates a lot more than Keon Coleman could. And I haven't seen the numbers, but based on from what I've seen, I would say his contested catch rate is probably higher. He's a really, really nice player, and the Bills need more at receiver. 49ers at 27. I had Casey Concepcion. He's no longer available. What do we do? Receiver is a big need, but I don't see one that's available. I love Chris Bell. I don't think he's a first-round pick after the injury. Maybe I'm wrong. I would like for him to be because I think he's a great player. Actually, I'd like for him to be a Giant at the top of round 2. That would be cool if he falls, and I think he probably will. I think the Giants probably will pass on him just because it seems like post-ACL injury like 3 weeks ago in the year, you're probably just not going to be as highly drafted. We'll see. But for the Niners, I've been on the offensive line here a lot. This is kind of a tough call. I like the idea of Avion Terrell. I think that edge rush could be a lot better, but I mean, you're ideally getting Mykel Williams and Nick Bosa back. You have Bryce Huff. We'll see for how long. You can never really have enough edge rushers. And is there a tackle truly worth taking here? Maybe Blake Miller. I mean, Trent Williams is not going to be around forever. Blake Miller would have a chance to compete to play right tackle, which is what he is at Clemson right now, or was, right? I could see Blake Miller getting into round 1. It's a tough spot here for the 49ers because I don't think the right receiver is necessarily available for them, although maybe this is like an Elijah Surratt. And would they go with an edge rusher? I'm not sure. I mean, Cassius Howell, I always struggle with him because I think he's kind of more of a designated pass rusher with, similar to Bain, really short arms and just not a precedent of that body type, those measurements being successful in the league. I think that will matter. So it can be tough to get him in the first round all the time. The Niners, I guess, would be a spot, especially if they don't think Bryce Huff is in their long-term plans, but we're going Blake Miller today. Texans at 28. Going to go Caleb Banks. The right offensive lineman is just not here for me. Just not. Maybe Chase Bisanis. But I look at how dominant the edge rushers are in this team. It's pretty much the best combination we've seen this past season or two. Will Anderson Jr., Daniil Hunter, it's absolutely elite. The interior is not quite on that same level because, one, it's impossible to be, pretty much. But it doesn't mean it's bad, but it could be younger. It could be better. Danico Autry, you can't count on long-term because he's like 36. Caleb Banks is another one of these guys that maybe is too good to be available because he was injured, didn't really play very much in 2025, but has elite size, extremely powerful, explosive hands. He'd be a fun add to this defensive line. Rams at 29. Yeah, I am going with Ty Simpson here. I struggled with this pick for a while. And ultimately, I was like, you can do worse than Ty Simpson. I don't think he's necessarily a first-round quarterback prospect, but team him up with Sean McVay in a spot where he doesn't have to play right away. This could be worth the pick. It's like, for the Rams, you don't expect to be picking in quarterback range again. They might even win the Super Bowl this year, right? So, you've got multiple first-round picks. You may as well take a shot. It's kind of like playing with house money because you have the Falcons pick at the top. You got your big-time playmaker. And then you have your pick from being so good at the back end of the first round. They're locked in at 29 through 32. So, could they just decide to go QB? I'm not like the biggest Ty Simpson believer, but yeah, I think they could. Again, team him up with Sean McVay. That's a pretty good coach to learn from and develop. And I think Ty Simpson could be good. I mean, with Alabama, early on in the year, he was great when he was getting to the top of his drop and then getting the ball out. It was back foot, ball out, gone. And his accuracy kind of diminished over the course of the year. I don't know what you can, attribute that to, but maybe it's because he does not have a ton of experience as a starter. There are a lot of things you can say, but he's in this draft class. He may have pretty good feedback from scouts to turn down $5 or $10 million from Miami and these other big-time schools that were recruiting him. Tennessee. There are some options here for Ty Simpson to make a lot of money, and he passed them up to go pro. Does that mean he's going to end up going top 50? Well, hey, if Jackson Dart was a first-round pick and Tyler Shuck was top 40, Ty Simpson could be top 40 as well. Rams at 29 snag their backup quarterback and potential QB of the future. Patriots at 30. Going to go TJ Parker. This is a potential play. I've been Cassius Howell here a lot. And I'm not the biggest TJ Parker fan because he just wasn't that good in 2025. Very disappointing after a great 2024. But he's got the size. He's 6'3", 260. And he's every bit of that. He looks like a 3-down player. And it's at the back end of the first. Would you take a guy that preseason we thought could go top 5 because he was an elite prospect coming out of 2024? This is a pretty good dart throw at 30. And we'll see if he can get coached up. I mean, look at what Kaylavon Chason was able to do this past season. It's a good spot to go. Broncos at 31. Receiver is a massive need. Massive. So he might reach on one a little bit here, but he was really productive. He's really good. Elijah Surratt also, to me, seems like the type that Sean Payton would like. You know, he's maybe not the most explosive, but he's got good size. He's a decent route runner. He's going to make the tough catches. Elijah Surratt, I feel like, fits the Broncos, and you can't go out there with, you know, the receiving core they had and expect to be effective and successful. I mean, they were, but, you know, as much as I love him, hook 'em horns, you can't rely on Lil Jordan Humphrey to be a wide receiver too. I know injuries played a part in that, and Pat Bryant, when healthy, you're hoping is going to be a nice playmaker in the future, but Marvin Mims is not a part of this future probably. I think they could opt to go with a receiver, and one with good contested catchability and strong hands is not a bad option. And the Seahawks to end it. Now, they found an awesome option in round 1 before out of the great University of Texas. Hook 'em horns. They're going to do so again. And I think it's a great fit for the defense. Anthony Hill, my guy. Horns up. Hook 'em. So good downhill. That's this defense. They fly around. They're physical. They're fast. They're explosive. Anthony Hill into this defense as someone that can be a very effective blitzer from the second level could be a lot of fun. Could be a lot of fun. This is my mock draft today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.